Welcome back for your next challenge called You're a Square. A square of squares. You like building blocks. You especially like building blocks that are squares. And what you like even more is to arrange them into a square of square building blocks. However, sometimes you can't arrange them into a square. Instead, you end up with an ordinary rectangle, those blasted things. If you had just a way to know whether you're currently working in vain, wait, that's it. You just have to check if your number of building blocks is a perfect square. Task. Given an integral number, determine if it's a square number. In mathematics, a square number, or perfect square, is an integer that is the square of an integer. In other words, it is the product of some integer with itself. The tests will always use some integral number, so don't worry about that in dynamic typed languages. See the examples below. -1 is false. There's no integer that you can multiply by itself to get -1, right? If you multiplied -1 by -1, it would make 1. 0 is true. 0 times 0 is 0. 3 is false. 4 is true because 2 times 2 is 4. 25 is true because 5 times 5 is 25. And 26 is false because there aren't two integer values that multiply to it. So that's very clear. Go ahead and pause the video, solve this one, and come on back. So the way I'm going to solve this is to take the integer input, and what I'm going to do is take the square root of it, right? If it's a square, I should be able to take the square root of it, and when I do that, the answer I get should be an integer, right? If it's not an integer, then we return false. And so the system namespace has this math.squareRoot method. Not sure if we've used that in this series, but if not, here it is. Returns the square root of whatever you pass it. Notice it takes a double, and that's not a problem for us because the integer will be converted to a double. An integer can be without any loss of precision. If you go from a double and try to force that into an int, you can run into trouble, right? Because certainly if there's any fractional portion, that's not going to work in an integer. And so it probably wouldn't work to go the other way. But we should be fine passing an integer in here. If you want to see the examples, go ahead. So you see how it's called there, math square root. Yeah, pretty simple, right? Pass your number in, and I'll pass it right as an integer. It'll tell us if that won't work. So at this point, right, what did it say it gave us? It gave us the square root value as a double. Yeah, returns a double. So we've got our answer there, and then what's left to do is with that value, we want to know, is it an integer or not? So to do that, I will use our trusty old friend, the modulo operator. And all I'm doing is taking that square root and I'm dividing it by 1. And I'm making sure that whatever remainder exists is 0, right? That means it divided out evenly. If there's a fractional portion, that remainder won't be 0. You've used modulo before, so I think that's clear enough. I'll run my test. And I'll hit the larger attempt. Nice. All right, pretty easy kata points, honor points there, right? So go ahead and submit. Not sure there'll be much else to gain from the solutions. Yeah, probably pretty similar there. Okay, yeah, comparing it to the same thing but cast it to an integer. Okay, cool. So yeah, pretty straightforward, but feel free to hit me up, questions, comments, solutions. Otherwise, let's keep rolling. See you in another video. Thank you.